Welcome. This is James Corbett of the Corbett Report with your eye-opener report from boilingfrogspost.com on this 20th day of July 2011. The scandal enveloping Rupert Murdoch's beleaguered news corporation mounts this week as revelations continue to emerge about the widespread use of phone hacking, pinging, and other illegal techniques by Murdoch-connected journalists. In a breathtaking 2 weeks, the scandal has so far seen the formation of a parliamentary inquiry into the affair, the folding of the 168-year-old News of the World, the withdrawal of Murdoch's bid for ownership of B-Sky B, the resignations of the Commissioner and Assistant Commissioner of the London Metropolitan Police, as well as Wall Street Journal publisher CEO Les Hinton and News International CEO Rebekah Brooks. The arrest of Brooks on the suspicion of involvement in the illegal hacking, along with Andy Coulson, the British Prime Minister's former communications director, and, in one of the latest developments, the death of Sean Hoare, the first journalist to allege that Coulson had encouraged his staff to engage in phone hacking during his tenure as News of the World editor. The rapidity with which the scandal has eaten through to the very heart of the unholy alliance between the British press, police, and government has taken nearly everyone by surprise, even those who already knew of the existence of that alliance in the first place. Now, the incredible influence that Rupert Murdoch has wielded over the British political establishment, a topic that until this month was conspicuously absent from discussions of the British electoral process, is being openly talked about on every major television network not currently owned by Murdoch himself.
Yes, and you see, the thing is that parties from both sides, the Labour Party, for example, the Socialist Labour Party, could never have got elected, perhaps, originally, if the Sun newspaper, what the Murdoch stable, hadn't supported them. They've always needed, the current government, David Cameron, needed the Sun to come back onto his side. David Cameron is close friends with Rebekah Brooks. She was the editor of the News of the World during this scandal and is now the top executive.
So I'm just asking you as a British voter, when you see a political leader of your party fly halfway across the world to win the blessing of Rupert Murdoch in 1995, that he then gets in 1997, and Blair magically becomes the first Labour Prime Minister in a long time to be elected in this country, David Cameron, the second person into Downing Street after Cameron moved into Downing Street, was Rupert Murdoch. He's the only person from outside that government to have 2 meetings at Downing Street within the first week of Cameron moving in. I'm just wondering how you feel about that.
Clearly, it's a source of concern.
Despite the faux shock with which the mainstream media seems to be discovering the extent of Murdoch's political clout, the facts about News Corporation's ownership of a bewildering number of media outlets around the world has been a matter of public record for some time. Nor should the idea that Murdoch uses his political influence to shape public policy come as a surprise to anyone who has followed the admissions from his broadcasting networks and from Murdoch himself that this is precisely what he has been attempting to do.
We want to set an example to others in our industry and other industries that no matter what the size of your carbon footprint is, you can make a difference.
Out of staple on record.
Global warming.
Probably.
Press button to see what global warming will do in the next 3 years.
3 years is a long ways away.
What could we do on a practical level to start making a difference?
Just had another thought. What if the Scared Straight show had a green message too?
The biggest thing we've done is inserting messages about the environment into some of our content.
I don't follow. Green, it means environmentally friendly.
The lifeblood of our company is the quality of our TV shows, and we would accomplish nothing if we compromised that quality.
Going green doesn't fit with the rest of the show.
Well, work your magic, make it fit.
Hey, Brian. I'm not going to recycle this aluminum can. I'm just going to throw it in the trash. Ha! You're Earth's bitch.
For example, take the war. I'm not just talking about the United States, but in terms of you having a global media enterprise. I mean, have you shaped that agenda at all in terms of perceptions of the war, in terms of how the war is viewed?
No, I didn't think so. I mean, we've tried.
Tried in what way?
Well, we basically supported our papers and our television I would say, supported the Bush policy in the Middle East. We've been very critical of its execution, but our support hasn't meant very much, because clearly public opinion now has grown very, very tired of the whole enterprise.
The problem of the convergence of media and politics, while brought to the forefront by the Murdoch scandal, is by no means limited to News Corporation or its subsidiaries. In Japan, the existence of the so-called Kisha clubs, where establishment journalists are given exclusive access to political deliberations in exchange for favorable coverage, has long been lamented as a mechanism by which political scandals are controlled and the public is kept in the dark about critical information. The Japan Times ran a story this past May on how the press clubs have ensured softball coverage of the Fukushima crisis for TEPCO and the Japanese government. The article reveals the remarkable fact that not one single press club reporter asked TEPCO whether they had detected a plutonium leak from Reactor 3 during the first 2.5 weeks of the crisis. When they were finally asked the question by freelance journalist Takashi Uesugi, their response was that they didn't have a detector to check for such a leak. In the US, the New York Times famously sat on the story of President Bush's illegal wiretapping at the request of the White House for over a year, not running the story until 2005, after Bush had been re-elected for a second term as president. Later that same year, it was revealed the Bush White House was producing videos about the government that were designed to look like news reports from legitimate independent journalists, and then feeding those reports to media outlets as pre-packaged material ready to air on the evening news. When the Government Accountability Office ruled that these fake news reports in fact constituted illegal covert propaganda, the White House merely issued a memo declaring the practice to be legal. Despite all of these instances of overt political manipulation via the press, the issue of the relationship between government and the media has always been studiously avoided in the corporate media. But now, perhaps smelling the blood of their biggest media rival, the question of how much political clout is too much for a media magnate is being asked on all the major news networks. Earlier this week, I talked to Russ Baker, the award-winning journalist behind the book Family of Secrets and the founder of independent investigative journalism website whowhatwhy.com, about the Murdoch scandal and its wider implications. I asked him about the power invested in Murdoch's consolidation of media power and how he has wielded that influence in shaping society.
Right, and I think that's very true, certainly in the United States. With the very close presidential elections we had in 2000 and 2004, I think there's no question that without his machine behind George W. Bush, he would have had a real difficulty being elected and being re-elected. If the Fox News channel, for example, hadn't existed, I think he would have really had a problem. So their influence is tremendous, and of course, in recent years, he has hired Karl Rove, the so-called architect of George Bush's political success, as a columnist at the Wall Street Journal, an esteemed business publication that Murdoch bought in the last few years. And in England, Murdoch's support has been absolutely crucial to the prime ministers, and he was very instrumental in making Margaret Thatcher what she was, John Major, and then switching and backing Tony Blair and Labour. And so all of these people, regardless of what party they're in, have found that if you play ball with Rupert Murdoch and you allow him to continue to expand his empire by getting favorable regulatory decisions, you will be rewarded not only with the support that will put you in office, but when you leave, his companies then will give you enormous publishing advances to write books that will never earn out those advances. And so it's a kind of a pretty obvious quid pro quo. You get benefits going in and going out.
Some are now citing the consolidation of media under the News Corporation banner as the reason for these abuses of power. Labour leader Ed Miliband, who has been scoring political points by appearing to go on the attack over the apparent collusion between the tabloids, the Met, and 10 Downing Street, said earlier this week, "I think that we've got to look at the situation whereby one person can own more than 20% of the newspaper market, the Sky platform, and Sky News, warning that If you want to minimize the abuses of power, then that kind of concentration of power is frankly quite dangerous. Others, however, point to the paradox of attempts to legislate against these abuses of power by the very politicians accused in the ongoing scandal. Rather than broad legislation of the media industry, legislation that runs the risk of censoring and stifling the freedom of the press, these critics argue that we should concentrate on those who can be shown to have broken the law and to prosecute them to the fullest extent. Last week, the Corbett Report talked to Christina Borgeson, an award-winning former producer for CBS, CNN, and PBS, who has edited 2 books of media criticism. We addressed the topic of media consolidation and whether that really represents the central issue revealed by the Murdoch scandal.
Well, it's so interesting because I've been watching like Rachel Maddow. She had Bill Moyers on. And, you know, you have all these pundits talking about it, and, oh, you know, the laws will have to take care of this, and, oh, well, media consolidation, and, oh, you know, everybody always says the same thing. Oh, these are the problems, the media consolidation, the this and that. And you know, when you say things like media consolidation or, you know, you use these terms that don't implicate specific individuals. But the fact of the matter is, at some point, whether it's Rupert Murdoch building his empire or Berlusconi or anybody else, at some point, you know, every individual who crossed the line or did something that was maybe not illegal but immoral or wrong or not good for journalists, even the journalists who work for them, you know, they make that choice. Okay, the journalists who go and they, you know, like when Coulson, he goes and hires this detective to go invade people's privacy, you know, as a member of News of the World, and now he's working for Cameron, the Prime Minister of England. So I mean, illegal, immoral, people are willing to cross lines, and large numbers of people are willing to cross lines.
Although we are still in the very early stages of this affair, and there is no doubt much more fallout to come as the revelations of widespread corruption in the corridors of power continues to emerge, what this story has already amply demonstrated is the suffering that organized criminal conspiracies can inflict when an institution that is designed to defend the public from abuses of power instead subjects that public to those abuses. Ultimately, the real victims of these power politics and dirty tricks should not be forgotten. The family of Millie Dowler and David Foulkes, and the 9/11 victims' families, and all those other innocent bystanders who happened to find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. Victims not only of the initial, unthinkable tragedy of the death of a loved one, but then violated again by the tabloid reporters and police officers, corporate executives and politicians who conspired in the harvesting of their personal information against their will and against the law. Truly, in this case, the power of the media to commit evil is laid bare, a power with which Rupert Murdoch himself is all too familiar.
A newspaper can create great controversies, stir up arguments within the community, discussion, can throw light on injustices, just as it can do the opposite. It can hide things and be a great power for evil.
This video is part of a new weekly video news series. Future editions of this series will be available to subscribers of BoilingFrogsPost.com. For more news and commentary from James Corbett, please visit CorbettReport.com.